I have a show for you, and am I super excited. There's so much to get to, but before we do that, we just heard A Fool's Errand by the band Fire Sale, and with me is Christopher Sweeney. Thank you so much for being on the program. Truly am humbled to have you on. For those that don't know about Chris, he is a musician, a teacher, a world traveler, a recording engineer. He's also a guitarist for many fabled bands, but now you are in this super group known as Fire Sale, which, by the way, contains so many people that it has to be super, right?
Yeah.
And first, quick question: do you think the term supergroup is outdated for bands?
I mean, I don't know about outdated. I will say when we first came out and people were using that term, we kind of cringed a little bit. We're like, ugh. But then we also realized that in the music industry, you kind of use whatever you've got, right? We want more people to check out our band. We want people that liked No Use for a Name and the Ataris and Pulley and Face to Face and Amberetta. We want them to check us out. So we, like I said, we were kind of cringe, super group. I don't want people to think we're calling ourselves that. But we didn't say that. Our PR guy said that, and the label said that. So we leaned into it, and we used that because it's a leg up to get us out there in front of people. But I will say that term is it's 50-50 for me in today's, because every time it's someone that did something cool and one other guy that did something cool, it's a super group. I don't know. Like I said, we lean into it because it's going to get us. It already has got us in front of more people.
I just riddled off 1,000 things that you do. How do you even have time for this group?
Dude, well, I'll tell you. I mean, I have a full-time music education studio where I'm a private music tutor, and that's 40 hours a week. I mix and master stuff for other bands, which is a big job too. That takes up a lot of my nighttime hours when my kids are asleep, my wife's asleep. And then, I just don't like to just kind of hang. I like to have many creative outlets. Some of those creative outlets also help me pay the bills. But this band, I don't know how much you want to get into it right now. I know you've got questions, but it started during the pandemic when nothing was going on. And I'm friends with the guys, and I respect all the guys that are in the band. And I started writing songs again. I hadn't written songs for a decade. And the guys liked them, and we said, hey, maybe we'll start a band. And at first it was just this thing we were doing. And then as we kept going and labels got interested and people were digging it and sharing it, and there was kind of a little buzz going, and it became a real thing. And we've, played shows, and we have a new video coming out, and it's kind of taken on a life of its own. I don't know if I was expecting that, but it's really cool that came out of a really bad time in everybody's life, the pandemic. I had a silver lining that I got to play music again.
Let's get into real quick the video, because I saw that you guys put up a GoFundMe.
Yeah.
And then with that, it said that you guys were going to originally, DIY it, and you're going to have all your fans send in, footage from shows and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And then you pivot to this.
I can explain it. And you're the only person, I've been doing a lot of press lately. You're the only person to ask about that. So I'm excited to tell you. So the original idea was, we're on a smaller label. They take care of us wonderfully, but videos are expensive, And so we were like, what are we going to do for video? Well, let's have people that dig the song sing the song at their house or wherever, playing the bass, playing drums, and I'll cut it all together and we'll just do this DIY really cool project. Well, a lot of people sent stuff in, a lot of submissions, and they were really, really cool. Around the time that I was going to start putting those together, we got an offer to do a real music video. Not that isn't a real music video, but with a crew and a gaffer and sound people and the whole deal. And it was in Dallas, Texas, which is where our drummer Matt Morris lives. And we wanted to do that really, really bad. And originally the video wasn't really going to cost anything. So our label's like, cool, we'll fly you guys down there because there's no cost. So we bought the tickets. That video thing kind of didn't materialize the way that it should have. And so then we're like 3 months out. We have tickets booked to Dallas. I'd booked a show so we could play our record release show. And we still wanted to do a video really bad. And Matt Morris, his buddy, actually is a director. And he works for like a decent sized company, and they do stuff with like the Dallas Cowboys and the Mavericks. Like they do like high quality stuff. And he had done a couple music videos, and he likes the band. His name's Joe. And Joe's like, we could do it, but I can't, there's got to be some money. Like you'll get the bro rate, but there has to be something. Like it's not, we can't do freebies, right? So the label was tapped, and we're kind of sitting around on a Zoom one night talking like, what are we going to do? And Joe was like, if you guys get down here, I'll get a camera and we'll use our iPhones, and I'll still cut together something really, really cool for you, even if there's no money. And I was like, that's cool, but we can kind of do that ourselves. So Tim that was originally in our band, Tim from Protest the Hero, Tim McMiller, he was kind of one of the first guys in Fire Sale, and then Protest the Hero got really busy, so he's kind of taking a back seat. He's doing piano and some second guitar stuff. Tim's band, Protest the Hero, for a record they put out, they had crowdfunded it. The complete record. Like, they got like $400,000 Canadian. Like, it was crazy. So I got a hold of him, and I was like, we were wanting to do this video. What do you think? You think we should do what you guys did? And he's like, he goes, man, it worked for us. We didn't know what was going to happen. And he said, a lot of people like Fire Sale. He's like, you guys could probably at least get enough to make a really cool video. So I put together, the GoFundMe page and told what our goal was and what we were trying to accomplish. And if you donated over $50, you get put in a raffle to win a rare test pressing of our first 7-inch, and trying to give people an incentive, not just to give us money, but like, we really wanted to make something cool, and we had this opportunity. We just didn't have any funds, and the label had already bought us flights and everything. So I was really surprised. People were very, very generous. One guy gave us $300.
I know who on the test pressing.
$300 is like a couple bills or one big bill, like it kind of blew me away, the generosity of people. And our goal was $3,000, and $3,000 would be like all the bells and whistles, amazing, like get treated like stars, craft services, the whole deal. We got about, I think 75 to 80% of that. And it covered the crew. It covered paying for the permits for the location. It covered the equipment. We got it done, and it was thanks to everybody that likes our band, and they all get their names as executive producers at the end of the video. And it was really cool. It felt kind of like a community, like a family, like they banded around us and they helped us achieve this thing that we really wanted to achieve. And I took a lot of the footage those people had sent prior, and I cut it together and just made like this little minute-long clip, so they were still involved.
I actually went on your GoFundMe page, and you can still donate.
Oh yeah, I haven't taken it down yet. If anybody donates, that will go to I don't know, maybe helping us get to the next tour.
Yeah,
since we all live all over the place.
I know, but you guys say that you're based in LA. I'm like, who is based in LA? You all don't live there.
Well, that's the thing. Like, Riddle is very close to LA, and when we were talking to our publicists and everything, they're like, it's hard because people are like, where are you guys from? And like, well, we're from everywhere. You can't say Fire Sale, Indiana, Virginia, Texas, California. You have to kind of tie it up with a nice bow on it. So our label and our PR guy, they were like, let's just say LA, because people think that bands come from LA and Riddle's close enough to LA, and it'll just be that until people ask you where everybody's from. I'm like, okay, cool, we'll go with that. So we are a Los Angeles band, even though I'm speaking to you from the middle of the country.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. And by the way, they have a 7-inch out. Go to hyperfollow.com/FSA Fools Errand. And I'll have the link on the show notes for you guys to check it out. And tell me about this 7-inch that you guys are pressing. Is it going to be a different color or something like that?
Yeah, it's already out. So you can order it and it'll ship immediately. There's like a green and black kind of colored one, and then there's like a white, red, and like gold kind of splattered one. They're really, really cool. And that website is kind of a weird website. That's, if you go to there, you can do all the different markets like Asia and Europe and whatever. If you're in America and you want to get it, just go to negativeprogressionrecords.com. That's the easiest thing. I just always put that hyperfollow because it has all the markets. So if you're in Asia or Australia and you want to order it, it's not going to be like $80 shipping because we have distros all over the world.
Gotcha.
So yeah, if you're in America, just go to negativeprogressionrecords.com. But yeah, there's 2 variants. If you're in America, you can also get a t-shirt bundle, and it's selling briskly. We're very, very happy. The label's very happy. And yeah, it's going really, really well. We actually have 2 new singles coming out very soon that I just finished editing a bunch of guitars on this afternoon. And we can't wait. We've got another 7-inch going to hit probably before the end of the year.
Very cool. Earlier I played A Fool's Errand, and I just want to talk to you about that song really quick. Man, the song was super nostalgic, and I don't know if you were going for that, but you know, the guy that you have singing, he's from what? Ann Beretta, right? Pedro.
He was in Ann Beretta. He was in a band called Fun Size that used to be on a major label back in the day. He's done a lot of stuff as far as like singing. His
voice, I could have sworn it was Trevor Keith 20 years ago.
I will take it, right?
Yeah, I was like maybe Pedro Ada is really Trevor Keith. So I had to go look him up to make sure he wasn't, but he's who he is. I love his voice, and his voice with, you know, your guys' tone, it's perfect. It's really strange how it just fit together, and it got me thinking about that first moment where you guys all decided, like, you know what, this could actually work.
The whole like story of the band is very strange. So during the pandemic, I wrote a few songs I hadn't written for a really long time, and I liked them. I thought they kind of, I don't know, like whenever I write something, I'm very critical and like, oh, it's not good, whatever. But I wrote these songs just musically, and I kept going back to them, and I was like, I really dig these. Like I don't normally dig my stuff as much because I'm very critical of myself when I write stuff. And I let my wife hear it, and she's like, it sounds really cool. She goes, I want to hear somebody sing on it, but the music part of it, I really dig it. And everybody I let hear it, they said, this is really cool, man. You got to do something with this. So I sent it to Matt Riddle. Matt Riddle sent me back bass tracks.
Wow.
And I was like, okay. And then I was all excited because even though Matt and I are buddies, he's like one of my favorite bass players in the entire world. Like, so I had the bass tracks, I had my stuff, and all this time it was just like programmed drums, but I'm pretty decent at programming drums, so it sounded pretty good. I had worked with Pedro previously at the beginning of the pandemic. I did this thing on my podcast, on that one time on tour podcast, where I wrote this little pop punk song, and then I had listeners send in their singing for the song. And the one that I liked the best was Pedro. That was the first time I'd ever met Pedro, was just through the podcast.
That's crazy.
Like I knew, like I had spoken to him, like he'd emailed me a couple times. He liked the show. I was even thinking about having him on the show because I loved Ann Beretta and I loved some of the bands he was in. But he sent me vocals for that song back in the day, and I really, really liked it. So as I'm putting Fire Sale, like the seed is planted, and we're like trying to see what we can do with this. Originally, this band that I love out of Australia called Paper Arms, their singer Josh Mann, I had been talking to him. He was on my podcast, and I was like, hey, man, I wrote these songs. I know you write songs. do you want to sing in this band? And I already named it Fire Sale and everything. Like, I got the name from a song. My buddies in Get Dead, they have a song called Fire Sale. And one night I was writing names on a piece of paper and that song came on my shuffle and I was like, oh, that's a cool name. So that's where the name came from. But Josh originally was going to be the singer in Fire Sale. And Josh has got a really cool voice, kind of like a Chuck Reagan, kind of scratchy, hot water music kind of thing, like a Gainesville sound, you know. And it kind of just got to the point where he didn't really have a way to record. He was in Australia, so if anything did happen with the band, it would be more of a logistical nightmare than it is already. And it just kind of came down to, man, I want to write some songs with you. I think it's going to be great, but I think maybe we should go another direction. And Matt and I were talking, and I said, hey, this guy Pedro that I really, really love his voice, he sang on this old song I wrote. Let's see if he wants to do it. And we asked him, and he killed it. And then we had a drummer for a while, Tucker Rule from Thursday and LS Dunes. He did the drums on the demos, but then he's a busy guy. I knew from day one, like, Tucker's a buddy. I didn't think Tucker was going to be in Fire Sale. I really didn't think that. It was just like, hey, here's some songs I wrote. I need drums that aren't fake drums. Can you do it? Sure. And so he did it. But then when we wanted to actually, like, we got the attention of Spam Records over in Austria, who put out the first 7-inch. They were like, you know, hey, we want to sign you guys. We want to put something out. I was like, we need more than just the demo drums. So we got this guy, Will Ferguson, who's like a session drummer out in Jersey. And he played on the first 2 singles that are on that first 7-inch, Dark Hearts and Mercy Brown. And then after that, my buddy Paul was in the band for a while, but Paul, he kind of injured his back and it was hard for us to get together and it just kind of never materialized. And then finally, Matt Morris, who's a buddy of mine, he did a bunch of Quarantine covers with a band called Just Like Them. They played Descendant songs and all songs. I'd been talking to him forever and I was like, dude, why don't you just join the band? I said, you've got a studio, you can record yourself, we don't have to pay any money. And he said yes, and then things went real quick after that. But the aha moment, which I know I rambled and I got away from your question, the aha moment for me was secretly in my mind, I wanted Matt Riddle to be in a band with me. And when he sent bass tracks back, I'm like, I have a band. Like, I didn't know what was going to happen. I didn't know if we would go do a video in Texas and play shows and put out records. I didn't know that, but I was like, I'm going to die one day and I'm going to have music I wrote with Matt Riddle's bass playing on it. And that was the aha moment for me.
Man, what a great moment. What a story.
It's a crazy story, right?
Yeah. And, I hope people listen to this podcast so you don't have to tell that story 1,000 more times. You know,
I always try to add more or like make it a little different every time I tell it. So I think I got a little more in depth on your show. So hopefully people will recognize that.
Yeah. Now, real quick too, you know, having all those veterans together sounds super fun, and I guess the way you guys did it was very Postal Service, if you will.
Yeah, totally. I mean, nowadays with technology as the way that it is, we all have a MacBook, or Pedro has a full recording studio. Like, he does full records for bands at his house. I've got like a podcast studio where, you know, I can record guitars and I could record bass and vocals. I'd have a hard time probably doing a full drum set, but I can do everything that I need to do. And Matt Morris has a full project studio where his drums are set up and mic'd. And, you know, Riddle's got a MacBook with a little interface where he can do his bass. So we all kind of have a way to do it, right? So with those first songs that I wrote, when I wrote and recorded them, I didn't write and record them as like a shitty demo. I wrote and recorded them as playing the best I could play with the best tones that I could get, edited the best, and all gridded out to a click track. So everything is in time and perfect. So when I send it to Riddle, I'm like, this song is in B minor. It's 162 beats per minute. Put it on your thing. Look at the grid. Turn on your click track. And so if I do all my stuff to a click and Riddle plays his bass to a click and then only sends me his bass wave back, I put it into my session and now I've got a bass on my session. And then we get all that done. We send an MP3 to Pedro. He writes and records his vocals, sends all those waves back to me. I dump them in my Logic session, and we kind of build it like a house. And as long as you play it, you know, when you're in the studio, bands nowadays, I mean, all the way back 25, 30 years ago, you use a click track because you need some kind of reference so it's not, the tempo doesn't go up and down. We're doing the same thing bands do when they're together in a studio. We're just doing it thousands of miles apart from each other.
Have you guys done this live together? Because now I'm like curious. Because
yeah, that was the thing. Like when our first show and only show so far, we have stuff coming up, but our first and only show was last month in Dallas, where, you know, the posts that everybody put on the internet were Fire Sale's a real boy. Like, we played a show. It's not a project. It's not a pandemic. It's a real thing. And that was the thing. We all independently, because that's the thing. I wrote the songs and recorded the songs, but if you're not playing them all the time, I forgot how to fucking play them. I had to go into my session and like solo my guitar and go, oh, it's an E minor 5. It's a B augmented. Like, I had to go in there and like figure out what I was doing. And so I learned all the songs, all my parts. Riddle did the same thing. Morris did the same thing. Morris even had to learn the 2 songs he didn't play on. And then other songs that we haven't released yet, because you got to play at least 8 or 9 songs at a show. So it's like the 4 or 5 that are released and then like 4 more. And then we did a Misfits cover because everybody can play the Misfits. But yeah, we just all kind of did that. And we got to Texas. It was Easter weekend. So we got there Thursday. We didn't leave till Monday. So Thursday and Friday, we rehearsed together as much as humanly possible. Saturday morning at 8 a.m., we were at the location to do the video. We did an 8-hour video shoot, broke for food, then drove back downtown Dallas, played our record release show, got out of there at 3 a.m., came back. Easter Sunday, we all kind of hung out, and then we did a photo shoot. And then Monday, we woke up and we all flew home.
Wow.
Crazy, right?
That is crazy. So do you guys plan on touring like this? Or
well, I will tell you, when you get the first one out of the way, like in the Ataris, we never really rehearsed very much back in the day. Like, we all lived fairly close together, but a tour is coming up. And we'd be like, okay, everybody learn your parts again. And then before the first show in the van or the hotel, we're all going to have practice in the room with no amps. And it would always go pretty well because we played so many shows. Now, Fire Sale's still new, but just the fact that we were able to get together for basically 1.5 rehearsals and then pull off a show, I think, you know, we are planning on some short runs. I think we're going to do probably a week or so on the East Coast and a week or so on the West Coast. And we also have some offers for Asia and Europe and different places. But we're just basically going to get to wherever we're going a day early, go over the songs a bunch, and then hopefully by the second or third show, we won't suck, you know. It's the best we can do, you know.
Yeah. That's what's going on with the band. And if you guys want to follow more about the band, log on to entertheshell.com. I'm going to have their Instagram, and I'm going to have their Facebook and all that other good fun stuff for you to hit up the band. One last thing before I let you go, and it's something that I go through from time to time, and I'm curious about your process, is what do you do to fall back in love with music?
I mean, I don't think I ever fell out of love with music. I will say that the pandemic was a big catalyst for me, because before the pandemic, I mean, I hadn't played in a band for a really long time. Like, when I left the Ataris back about 2010 or whenever, I'm not sure when it was. And then after that, I started working in corporate entertainment. And then after a while, I joined a cover band when I lived down in Alabama and Florida on the beach, because you could play 6 nights a week and you can make killer money. We're doing like Bob Marley and Sublime and shit. And and I'll tell you that was fun, but I didn't feel any creativeness at all doing that. And I won't knock cover bands because they're great, but it just wasn't for me. I did it for a couple of years, didn't really dig it. And then I kind of got away from it, and I kind of lost my identity, because my identity was always I was the guy in the band, or I was the guitar player. And, you know, I had a couple kids, and moved back to Indiana where I grew up, and I was teaching guitar, and I love music, and I never kind of got out of music, but I didn't have that passion to create it, you know? When I started my podcast in 2018, it was a way for me to kind of reconnect with a scene that I felt like I wasn't a part of anymore. Like, you know, I open up my phone and I'm like, oh, look at all these people that I know, but I haven't talked to these people in a decade because I'm not on the road and I have nothing to do with the music industry anymore. So I got the podcast going because I wanted to feel connected to that thing that I had been connected to my entire adult life, which was the underground music scene, the punk rock scene, whatever you want to call it. And the podcast did that. And I got really, really excited about music again. And then when the pandemic hit, I was still doing the podcast and I loved it, and everybody was trapped inside. So everyone said yes. I had like crazy people on the podcast because everybody said yes. But I started kind of getting a little burnt and a little bored with it. And I started playing my guitar more. And that's when like the whole inspiration to write stuff. Before Fire Sale, I never thought I'd ever play in another band again or put out anything. And I feel very kind of, you know, I don't know if blessed is the right word, but blessed or honored or lucky or whatever that I'm 44 years old and I get to do, you know, I'm not looking to tour 9 months out of the year. I've got kids. But the fact that I'm the age I am and I had so much time away from it and I get to come back and not only release songs that I love, that I've put my heart and soul into, but create them and release them with people that I love, like brothers that I respect. That Matt Morris, one of the best drummers I've ever played with. Pedro, one of the best singers I've ever played with and created with. Matt Riddle. If you had me list the top 3 bass players I've ever heard in my life, he's in the top 3 with like Cliff Burton and Matt Freeman. Like, I'm not lying, and he gets mad at me when I say that shit in interviews, but it's like, no, you don't get it, man. When I was in high school, Face to Face and No Use for a Name were my shit. They're still my shit. You're the guy. That's another thing. You know, this is a ramble, but on A Fool's Errand, you said it reminded you of Face to Face. The way that song came about is that I told Riddle, I'm like, hey, go home tonight and send me a song that is classic Matt Riddle intro bass. And he laughed at me. And then the next day he sent me A Fool's Errand. And then I'm like, okay, let's get to work. And I didn't leave my studio for like 2 days, like played all the guitars, did all the little harmonies, like all this stuff. And then after Pedro sang on it, I can hear what you're saying. And even though you're kind of drawing a parallel with Trevor and Pedro, I get those vibes because I told Matt what I wanted and he gave me signature Matt Riddle, which is exactly Disconnected, all those Face to Face songs. When you hear that, you know it's him, you know it's Face to Face. And that when he sent that back and I got to work on it and put my stamp on it, and then Pedro put his stamp on it and Matt Morris put the drums on it, it's Fire Sale, but we kind of wear our influences on our sleeve, and our influences are a lot of the times the bands we used to be in.
And there's nothing wrong with that. They're good bands, so yeah. I enjoyed it. So what a great way to leave. Thank you again, Christopher, for coming on the show and just being so genuine and engaging in this fantastic thing we call conversation. And, go out, guys, support the band. And for all the links, hit up entertheshell.com. Again, they have a 7-inch out. Go purchase that. And I know they got more stuff coming out. So just make sure to follow them on all their socials and whatnot. Okay, last song that we are going to leave with is We Dance for Sorrow. And if you could do this under a minute.
Yeah, I'll do a short one.
Yeah, I know you had this riff knocking around for years, and it's so strange that when I saw this, because I know that's so true with people that write lyrics. They'll write some lyrics and put it up, and finally it'll foresee the light of day. But it never dawned on me that the same thing happens with guitarists or maybe even bass players. Now that I'm thinking about it,
yeah.
Do you do this a lot where you have all these riffs just stored away in cold storage, waiting to one day be released?
I'll tell you, for me, my voice memo on my phone, because every time you update your phone, you just kind of plug it into your iTunes and you get all your old shit. I have riffs on my phone from 2014, which I know that's a long time ago, but I also have riffs that I've written down. I have I have tapes when I used to do stuff. Like, I'm not going to go back to the well from like 20 years ago, but sometimes when I'm jamming, I'll just do a little couple bars of a riff that I think is cool, and I'm not sit there and flesh it out and write a whole song, but I know I dig it. So I put it on my phone, and then months later I'll come back to it and I'm like, I really like that riff. Oh, it's in C# minor. Oh, I know another part I wrote that can go with that. And I start kind of putting them together, and that's how it happens for me, because I don't really write words. Like, I'll do backup vocals and stuff, but I'm not really like a wordsmith lyricist guy. But yeah, there's always little bits and pieces kind of knocking around the riff tapes, just kind of going through them and see what I can do with it. I've got a bunch right now on my phone that hopefully will be the next 10 to 20 Fire Sale songs.
Yeah, that's cool. That all you gotta do is just send them out to everyone just the same way. Super cool talking with you again, Christopher. Go check out the band. Make sure to follow them on tour. I know they're going to be touring. You should. It's summer, so I mean, that's what they call tour season.
I think our stuff's going to probably start in the fall, but maybe next summer I think we're going to do some festivals. There's already been some talk with some different places and whatnot. So
yeah, so make sure to check it out. And remember, you heard all this here first, right here on What the Music on EnterTheShell.com. Again, we are going to leave you now with the riff from 2014. However, it's now. So it's from the past to the future.
80% of this song is like within the last 6 months, but yeah.
Okay, so
one of the riffs is old.
It still has that freshness to it.
Yeah.
This is Me Dance for Sorrow right here on What the Music.